This is a true story of a war that didn't just cost lives. It pushed one of the most powerful economies in the world to its limits. It didn't begin as a full-scale war. Not at first, just advisors, support, a growing presence in a distant conflict, the Vietnam War. At the time, it seemed manageable, controlled, temporary. But wars like this don't stay small. Year by year, more troops were sent, more equipment, more money. What was once a limited mission slowly became a full-scale commitment. The fighting intensified, dense jungles, unpredictable terrain, an enemy that didn't fight like a traditional army. And as the war dragged on, something else began to grow. The cost. Every operation required resources. Every deployment required funding. Every decision came with a price. Billions were spent. Then more, and more. There was no quick victory, no clear end. Only a war that kept expanding and a bill that kept rising. By the late 1960s, the United States was fully engaged. Hundreds of thousands of troops on the ground. Continuous operations, relentless spending. At its peak, the war was costing enormous amounts every single year. Money that had to come from somewhere. And slowly, the effects began to appear. Back home, the economy started to feel it. Inflation rose. Government spending surged. Financial pressure built quietly but steadily. Because funding a war this large for this long comes at a cost. And that cost was no longer just overseas. It was inside the country itself. The government began to borrow more, to print more, trying to sustain both a war abroad and stability at home. But the balance was starting to break. Confidence weakened, markets became unstable, and the idea that the system could hold forever began to fade. At the same time, public opinion shifted, protests spread, questions grew louder, not just about the war, but about its cost. How long could this continue? How much more could be spent? Because this wasn't a short conflict, it lasted years, then more years. And with every passing year, the financial weight grew heavier. By the early 1970s, the pressure was undeniable. The economy was struggling, inflation was rising, debt was increasing, confidence was falling, and one of the biggest reasons was the war. It had drained resources, stretched finances, and pushed the system to its limits. Eventually, the United States began to pull out, not because the cost didn't matter, but because it had become too much to sustain. The war ended, but the impact didn't, because the damage wasn't just measured on the battlefield, it was measured at home. An economy under pressure, a system pushed to its edge, and a lesson that couldn't be ignored. Even the most powerful nations have limits, because some wars don't just test strength, they test how much a nation can afford to lose. Stories like this aren't just history, they're warnings. Subscribe to Decode the Dark for more stories the world almost forgot.